All right, so we're live on episode 7. Um, I don't even know what to really say about this episode. Usually, at least this season, I found things to enjoy in certain episodes, right? Like, I think episode 5 was solid. Still had its problems, but it was solid. And then episode, like, what was it? 3 was pretty solid. Outside of that, show's been pretty bad. And episode 7 was not really any different, but except it was even more bad than I thought it could be, if that makes sense. I still had some hope that maybe episode 7 could turn the season around, even though like I do think it had been somewhat better than season 1. That's not really saying a lot, but this episode is supposed to be the big battle episode. It's like, Game of Thrones, it's like second to last episode. It's supposed to be the big episode. This was, in my opinion, one of the worst battles set pieces I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's so weird to me because I don't even know where to start. There's so much to unpack. So I guess let me talk about the battle because I think it's the most important part of it. Like, there's other things that are really bad in this episode as well, but it kind of is part of the battle, more or less. So the Battle of Eregion is happening. Okay, all that's going on. It just seems like they've been bombarding the castle for a few. I don't even know because passage of time also doesn't make any sense in this episode. But let's just say for now it's like a ministerial situation where they've just been shooting some fireballs into the castle for a while, and all of that's going on. And you have Celebrimbor who's still kind of out of it, being mind controlled by Sauron or whatnot. But then there's another issue here that I have that it's like Sauron is supposed to be his main goal. He doesn't really, I mean, he wants Eregion to fall, but his main goal is that he wants the rings to be made. But yet the illusion that he sets for Celebrimbor is just literally like a time lapse. So like there's this mouse that does the same thing on repeat. It's like, really, Sauron, you have all these powers that you have, but you couldn't just switch up the loop or just not have something as crazy as like a mouse doing the exact same thing. Like, so I had problems in the execution of like Celebrimbor and Sauron in this episode just to go along with the Eregion plot as a whole. So eventually Celebrimbor figures out what is going on, like that his head's being played with because, the candle, it's not going down, it's just staying at the same, height or whatever on the wax, which is like a really interesting thing to show that, okay, a Celebrimbor is actually thinking now, which is, okay, that part of I like about it. I don't like the mouse thing. It's like, okay, Sauron, are you really that dumb? Like, this is your main priority. And then Sauron is just all over the episode. Like, then at times he just leaves Celebrimbor and is worrying about like the defense of the city, I guess. And then Celebrimbor, because he realizes what's going on, and Sauron basically blackmails him that, oh yeah, if you don't make these rings, Region's gonna fall or whatnot, which is like it's already falling. So it's like really odd to me. Um, and then so Celebrimbor again, he's making the rings and all that, but then Sauron leaves him. He leaves him there alone, and is like watching what is happening in a like what? You have no guards over Celebrimbor. You have, and you just all you did is we basically put handcuffs on him. I'm just like, okay. So then Celebrimbor, in a crazy, move, basically cuts his thumb off to escape it. And then as soon as he goes out, by the way, he gets hit by like these catapults like 2 or 3 times this episode. It's like, okay, that's interesting. And so I'm just looking at this episode and I'm just like, okay, not a lot of this is actually making much sense to me. And then Celebrimbor runs into Galadriel and gives her all of the 9 rings. So, okay, just I don't understand where we're going with this. So then Celebrimbor takes like 6 dudes up to face Sauron, which makes no sense. Like, Sauron can kill all these people. What's the point of getting them all killed? And then he gets imprisoned again by Sauron, but then Sauron realizes he doesn't have the ring. Like, it's just all over the place. So what's actually happening in Eregion makes no sense, because also then it's like, how does Sauron's magic work that he's not feeling any of the vibrations of any of this stuff? And then also, once Sauron's spell is out of, Celebrimbor's head, and he sees all the damages done in his forgery or whatever, how does that work? Because if he's walking around and he's actually making the rings in this illusion, how is he not bumping into all these things that are just on the ground? He basically wouldn't even be able to function. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah. And then the actual scale of the battle. So let's talk about the battle. The orcs start attacking. They send some like catapult stuff over, and they hit the mountain. And conveniently, the mountain breaks, damming up the water so that the orcs could cross to the castle. But guys, in multiple shots, there is a bridge that gets to the actual castle. So, unless they were, again, this is the problem of the episode, is that unless it was like, okay, they wanted to attack on multiple fronts and not just go in a straight line down this bridge right to the castle gate, this doesn't make any sense. But the problem then also of the episode is we only see one section of this little tiny wall is being attacked and nothing else. So then that doesn't make any sense as to why they didn't just, okay, let's just go to the gate and just ram it. They then try to break a hole in the wall, which is way more difficult than just ramming down the gate. Makes no sense. So yeah, they spend a bunch of time doing all this, and then the orcs start approaching the castle, and you would think this is Eregion, like one of the biggest places for the elves, and there's like 5 dudes with arrows on the wall, and they miss a lot, apparently. They don't feel anything like elves. They feel like just some random dudes, and yeah. So the scale of the battle, completely, you just don't even know what's really occurring, like, at all. Like, if you think about, for instance, like Helm's Deep and the Two Towers, you know exactly what's happening in the battle because of, wide shots of where things are happening, or you have multi-fronts going on, and there's actually a flow to the battle. This is just like, okay, there's this one part of the wall we keep seeing, and the orcs are attacking it, and then apparently Elrond shows up, but we don't really know where Elrond and this cavalry showed up. That's not also to mention that Elrond, on foot, apparently ran all the way back to Lindon, then brought all those troops, an army of troops, by the way, all the way to Eregion. Then he seems to go around Eregion to try and get the dwarfs to help, and goes again back around the army, apparently of Eregion or something, leads this charge. And then, as we're getting our Rohirrim charge, Galadriel is like shown as the prisoner or whatnot. It's like, okay, just attack them. It doesn't matter. Okay, whatever. So the cavalry charge stops. Gil-galad is here, by the way, the High King of the Elves, the person that helps defeat Sauron, and he's just nowhere to be found. They have this meeting with Adar and Elrond and some other random elf that nobody cares about, and Gil-galad isn't even there. What? So Adar's plan basically is, okay, we're going to kill Galadriel if you don't back off, more or less. So he says that, right? And Elrond's like, okay, well, I guess Galadriel's got to die. But he goes over to her because he's basically has a plan. He's going to give her basically a lockpick. And instead of just like maybe like hugging her or, just saying some sort of word of goodbye, and this is why I wasn't so shocked as I think a lot of other people were, Elrond then kisses her. And for anybody that's taken like 2 seconds to look at the lore, knows that Galadriel is his mother-in-law. So and the craziest part is because I've known that's what they were doing for basically 2 seasons now. Like, they've been foreshadowing that for the whole basically series, if that's what this was leading to. But it's like, can you really tell me that people at Rings of Power just didn't take 2 seconds to look up, okay, this is like incest Game of Thrones kind of level stuff going on right now. It's literally meant there, I'm pretty sure, to just piss off like book fans. Makes no sense because they could have done the exact plot, but just have Elrond hug her or just like shake her hand or something. And besides that, if we're going off of what Adar just said, Adar said he's going to kill Galadriel after this. So, like, why is Adar not killing her? As soon as Elrond leaves the room, Adar chops her head off and we're done with it. Right? Like, because Adar doesn't seem to be bluffing. He gives no indication he's bluffing. But then he just leaves her alive. Okay, kind of weird. Whatever, I guess. I don't even know what to say. Oh, by the way, hi Ashley. So that all then happens. And so Elrond and Adar, they're set to have this big face-off. And so Elrond has a cavalry. Like, they have an entire cavalry. They're all mounted, right? Instead of like using your mounted army to like maybe swoop around to get into Eregion and then defend it from within the castle like any normal army would, they just, I guess, run right into the forces of Adar, I guess. It's, again, not made very clear. We jump back to them just in the middle of a battle. It's not like you get a Rohirrim charge or you get... It's just like they're in the battle and Elrond's fighting on foot and then just like... Okay, so where is this conflict occurring relative to the wall siege? I don't know. Also, apparently they only brought one siege weapon to break down the wall. Okay. And so the entire time, and again, this is the massive problem with the show, is the elves don't feel like elves. And it's not really that hard to make them feel elvish, right? And I'm not even talking about just the way they look, because the way they look is completely wrong, right? There's no boy band haircuts for elves. That just doesn't make any sense. But it's just the way that the show goes about presenting the elves, that these are just like normal men. Like, they don't have that presence of being like a higher angelic being like they are in Lord of the Rings. Like in Lord of the Rings, right? The elves show up at Helm's Deep, and they're very sophisticated. You can tell this is a veteran army that is leagues above anything like Rohan has in terms of defending Helm's Deep. And they just have that presence. Here it's just like the elves are just normal dudes. I mean, yeah. And so the problem you have is that there's no scale to the battle. There's no pace to this battle. There's just no way of really like actually tracking how the battle is fundamentally working. Because eventually then Elrond and all of his forces get to like the wait, what? Hold on. Greasers, what is that monstrosity in the bottom right of your display? Your right. Okay, so my right. Oh, you mean the Blackfire thing? Is that what you're talking about? That thing over there? Let me know, Ashley. But yeah, that's been there for a while. I don't have you not seen it before? But yes, I had actually had this painted like a while ago. I've had that in my room. It just wasn't in my setup. And then I brought it back down here. But yeah. Hey, I had to have both. I have the Targaryens, I had to have the Blackfires. It was just equal. But continuing on. Okay, continuing on. So as this battle is unfolding, and by the way, we don't see Gil-galad at all until like the very end of the episode. Like, he appears in the Rohirrim charge, but then he's nowhere to be found. And so throughout this battle, it's like, okay, the elves are just slowly losing, and Elrond is in a, okay, we're outnumbered, but the dwarves are going to come and we're going to kill them. We're just going to beat the orcs up because when the sun comes, then the dwarves are going to come, okay? So the dwarves are like, okay, we're going to do this. We have all of our men ready to go at the west gate to march to Eregion. And then one of the dwarves says to Durin, basically, if we leave, Durin is going to awake the monster, the Balrog, because apparently they know about that now. Like, I feel like that's not really actually been said at all, really. I know, like, Disa hinted at that, but then it never really comes up, but whatever. So, but my question is, and also, by the way, Durin has killed multiple dwarves, apparently. All you've got to do is just send, what, 20 guys down there? I think 20 should be able to take the king and just put him in prison or whatever you want to do. Because Durin, you know, his son Durin was already taking over power. Like, he was basically doing a coup. And so instead of helping, right, like instead of helping Elrond, who said he was going to, he doesn't because of one dude. So that whole plot doesn't make any sense. It's completely devoid of logic. If they even awaken a Balrog to begin with, what are these dwarves going to do? Because that's what's going to eventually happen, right? Is that, okay, I'm assuming next episode, the Balrog's going to get awakened. They're all going to get basically smoked. And then you're going to be sitting here like, why did they stay to begin with then? Makes no sense. But we're not there yet. So the dwarves don't show up to Elrond's side. So the elves are basically losing the battle. You even have, like, they're trying to take out this siege equipment or whatever. And this one archer that nobody cares about is like, oh yeah, you got to hit the target or whatever. And so she goes to, like, shoot this target. And she basically gets, like, porcupined with arrows. She literally has 4 arrows. And she has arrows in her quiver, by the way. But she has 4 arrows in her instantly. And this elf lady, she is tiny, okay? Boromir could barely get up after 3 shots in his chest. And you're telling me this woman got up, pulled an arrow out of herself, shot it at the thing, and then proceeded to die, I guess. A berserker, like a big buff Uruk-hai dude, took 2 and almost got downed, and this woman took 4 in rapid succession at the same time, and she lived long enough to pull back a bow and arrow and shoot. Do you know how much strength it takes to do that while also being impaled 4 times? Okay, so that happens. It doesn't even matter anyway, because apparently some orcs just are able to do it, and they break the wall, a hole in the wall anyway. Okay. Whatever. And then I don't even remember the other elf. The only elf that actually feels like an elf. It's the elf in the Eastern plot that, like, somehow walked all the way to Region, like, by the time the battle started. It doesn't make any sense. And he was trying to, is it Arondir? Arondir, that's it. And so Arondir, he makes it all the way back to camp, and also conveniently, I must add, sneaks up to the camp of the orcs through thousands of orcs, by the way. He just somehow makes it to Adar's camp. Fine, whatever. I guess he's an elf. He's very stealthy, whatever. He finds Galadriel, saves her life, and then Galadriel is like, oh yeah, don't kill Adar. You know, you're going to die if you do that. Galadriel, what the fuck are you talking about? All the elves are going to die because they're outnumbered. Kill Adar, and all the orcs might stop falling. The only reason they're here is because of Adar. They don't even want to fight. And so I'm just like... And that's just to say that they would get caught in general. Arondir just killed 3 orcs that were about to kill Galadriel, and nobody even saw. Like, oh my god. The logic is mind-blowing to me. It is mind-blowing, the logic in this episode. But yeah, I mean, Ashley... I'm just, like, tired of it, because it's like, episode 6 was bad too, don't get me wrong. But, like, episode 7, like, held some promise to me. Like, how would they do the Battle of Eregion? And they just completely fucked it up. And so, like, this show is, like, it never got past, like, I'd say the first maybe 3 episodes, I was like, okay, maybe it's like a 5 or a 6. The show is just bad. I mean, it should be canceled. I don't know who watches this that isn't, like, trying to just like see how bad it is, or 2 is like reviewing it. I don't know who's watching this. Like, if it didn't have Lord of the Rings in the title, nobody would watch this show because it's bad. Rings of Power casting seem to just think elves are just ordinary men with pointy ears. Yeah, they don't have any angelic presence to them. They aren't like any higher type of beings. Like, these are elves that have fought in the First Age. Like, these are the most pro elves, like the most pro fighters you could literally have. God. So, I mean, this show, boy, yeah. So Arondir, the only elf that actually seems like an elf, like his movement and the way he, does action is very like Legolas-esque. It's very like actual elfish. And apparently, like, he gets in a fight with Adar, and he ends up losing, and it seems like he's dead, but he's definitely not dead because it wasn't actually shown on screen, really. So I'm assuming he's going to be injured and come back in the next episode. And then Elrond also basically surrenders to Adar, more or less. And it's just like, Adar, kill them. Why is Arondir going to come? I guarantee you he's going to come back the next episode, be fine. And then you also have Elrond, who is at your mercy. Just kill him. Just kill him. What? And the reason they don't die is because, of course, they can't die. They're the main characters. We know they're alive during Lord of the Rings, but it's like the plot has crafted a way in which it's very feasible for them to die. Like, even when Elrond goes to, for instance, negotiate with Adar, when it goes sour, why doesn't Adar just kill Elrond right then and there? And part of it's like they're trying to make the orcs very like human, and I'm just like, what are we doing? These same orcs are shown to be killing villages in this show for no reason. They're just doing it just to do it. Like, it's so bad. And what the plot right now is suggesting is that the orcs are going to turn on Adar because they realize, oh yeah, he's no better than Sauron, and they're just going to go to Sauron to begin with. And it's just like, it's so convoluted and stupid. But yeah, I did actually see that Professor McGonagall died. I can't remember her name. I feel bad now. Hold on, it's like Maggie something. Hold on. I'm not good with names. As you guys know, I'm not good with names. Maggie Smith. Okay. Yeah, I saw that. I was really sad because Maggie Smith was my favorite professor. And I really liked, her performance of the character. She in my opinion is like one of the most likable characters in the show, and she did such a great performance of the character from the book. And it's very sad. It's very sad. I was planning on, for my Monday stream, I'm going to do kind of what I did for James Earl Jones, have a little bit of a tribute to her. But it's sad. All the Harry Potter, actors, a lot of them, the older actors dying at this point. So the show should have been with Anatar, forget Adar, though I feel like the Benjen Stark actor could have still fit well in the world. I mean, I agree. Like, I think Adar was an interesting character. It's just they haven't done anything with the character. Like, this season has made it worse. Like, his character is even worse now. And like, so I didn't even finish with the Sauron plot. So Sauron also in this episode shows that he can like force push people. So he actually gets the one girl he was flirting with the whole time. He basically throws her off of a wall and makes it look like Celebrimbor did it. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, I don't understand Sauron's power. Like, he seems to just have whatever the TV show wants him to have. Like, there's no limit or like range of what his power is, right? Like, for instance, like Saruman, right? It is shown that Saruman's main power is his voice, his ability to sway people and all that. Like, even in Return of the King. Is Return of the King, or I can't remember in the book, it's Return of the King or Two Towers, where they actually go see Saruman, and he's able to basically almost convince them. If Gandalf wasn't there, like, it might have gone differently. I think it's good to define what your magic can do. And like, Sauron just seems like he has limitless magic to where I don't understand why he's even like playing this game of being, of like not showing his power and just doing it. Like, I don't know. But like, even he has the ability to mind control elves to kill each other, which is just like, I just don't understand like how his power works in this show. There's no like limits to it. He just seems to do whatever he wants. And so I just don't know. I just fundamentally don't understand this episode. It made no sense. It just makes no sense. And I want to do a video, I think, on this channel that I'll do after the season's completed. I want to do an analysis of it with Helm's Deep, because one is quite literally the exact way of how to not do a television show, or not a television show, but like a battle sequence, and the other one's like perfection. And it's just like, how do you taking a Lord of the Rings project, not look at some of the best battles ever put to screen, whether that's Minas Tirith, whether that's Helm's Deep, and not understand how to do a battle. It's not simple because it's a really hard process with all the actors and time that it takes to do those things. But the writing is so poor, it's just inexcusable. It is inexcusable. This is by far, like, I think it's probably the worst episode of the show. Between like the Galadriel Elrond kiss and all of the other stuff, it's probably the worst episode of the show. Season 1 is still worse because season 1 had literally nothing that I really enjoyed in it outside of some stuff with Elrond and Durin. I don't even know what to say. They've made Sauron so overpowered that nothing makes sense regarding how he has not taken over Middle-earth. Agreed. It makes no sense. It makes no sense as to why Sauron has not taken over the world. Given how incompetent Numenor is and the elves are, it makes no sense that Sauron hasn't already just taken over. Like, because in the book, right, Numenor is a huge pain in the ass to Sauron. Like, they defeat him literally before, like, the actual, Great War starts and Sauron reveals himself. He gets taken to Numenor. And then that's when he does the Anatar role because he realizes he can't really defeat Numenor. They're super powerful. And so he has to destroy them from within. This show, it's like Numenor is incredibly incompetent. The elves are incredibly incompetent. Who is Sauron having to fear right now? Like, who? There is no thought process in my mind that says that if Sauron just revealed himself and just took over, he wouldn't win. Like, he would easily win. So, I don't know. The walls of Eregion are so low as well. This is a $1 billion show. Can they not get some 50-foot walls? Ruckus. It makes no sense to me that they didn't assault the gate of the city or multiple points on the wall. Yeah, there was like 5 dudes defending the wall, and they just decided to do nothing with it. I don't know. And it's like, and here's the worst part, right? Is that this episode didn't even have the worst like plot lines of the show. Like, the Harfoots weren't even in this plot line. And now episode 8 is probably going to have a lot of the Harfoots. And I'm just like done. I don't know. Like, I told myself I wasn't going to review season 2 by the end of season 1. And I was like, okay. I slowly softened to the idea because I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be as invested as I was for season 1. I'm just going to have like 30-minute like reviews and complain. And that's pretty much what I've just done. I haven't done long videos for these. I've just done a little live stream after them. And yeah, I'm reminded why I didn't want to do much content for season 1. But yeah, for people that weren't watching in season 1 or didn't know my reviews, I basically did them like my House of the Dragon reviews where I'd go through every single scene, and it was just me like just losing my brain cells for about an hour and a half. But yeah, I don't know what else to talk about on the episode. I can't remember too much else that actually happened outside of like the battle stuff just being nonsense. Some of the Galadriel Elrond stuff being nonsense, the dwarf plot being nonsense. There's no like, yeah, there's no thought process of in this show how time and like scale of the actual world work, right? Like, there's no, okay, so if Elrond is here and goes all the way back here, how, like, my question is that the show didn't even answer. How did, like how long were the orcs sieging Eregion? Because it seems like they get there and they're there for maybe like a day, and then they start sieging it, and that's how it goes down. But in the show, it's like Elrond, which on foot going back to Lindon would have taken at least a week. Then for the army to be completely gathered up and moving, a long army, by the way, going all the way to Eregion would have taken, like, the span of, like, how all these characters would have moved. Like, Arondir, also on foot, went from all the way from basically Mordor to Eregion in, like, less than a day. I don't even understand that. I don't understand. Gil-galad randomly appearing was absolutely brain dead. Yep. I love you complaining, Grease. See, I like it sometimes, but I also don't like it. Like, I don't know. It's just been a year where it's like there hasn't been a lot of good things that have come out. Like, I want to watch The Penguin, but I don't want to pay for HBO just to watch The Penguin. I'd rather just wait till it's completely out and then watch it. But we'll see. But hi, Violet. How are you? Hi, Jesse. How are you as well? Well, they had to build all those siege engines, so it must have taken a while. Yeah, but like, I agree with you. But the fact that they don't show that, like, they don't show any passage of time. I thought the battle was lame. Yeah, the battle was terrible. This is like Jesse. This is the worst battle I've seen on screen. A fantasy battle is the worst fantasy battle I've ever seen. Given the amount of money that was put into it, it didn't look good. It was pretty poor in terms of like I would say Game of Thrones season 8, the Battle for Winterfell, was better paced and better like shown than the battle in Rings of Power. Like that's insane to me. Like at least like this is what I can say at least about Game of Thrones season 8's battle, even though it's still bad, is that at least there was like you understood what was going on. You understood that okay, regardless if it was stupid, regardless if it was like you couldn't see anything or whatever, but like if you think about it, you understand it, right? So you understand, you have all your forces outside of the wall, which is stupid, but you understand they're there. And so you have the Dothraki go out, they have this charge, they all die. Okay, you understand the cavalry are basically dead. Then the others come and they're, they push us back, they push back the forces of the living, of more and more. The dragons are fighting. You understand what's like going on in the battle. This battle, you don't understand anything going on right now. And also, I want to say this as well. If you liked the episode, I'm glad you did. I same thing about I say with House of the Dragon. I'm glad you liked it. I just didn't. I didn't find much in this episode that was that enjoyable. I think it was probably the worst episode of the entire show. But I mean, I don't know. Zach, I would love to hear like why you liked it. Just like, what's your opinion on the stuff? Like I think the Sauron stuff I've liked throughout majority of the season, but this episode I just didn't. I just thought it didn't make much sense to me. This is a blanket statement, but I've noticed that big budget shows don't hold my interest. The small budget shows are always, yeah, I think the reason is because when you don't have a big budget, you're forced to really like think about the story, right? Like you have to have a more compelling story than you have to have like great visuals and stuff like that because you don't have the budget to do those. And so I think, and also there's more to a small budget show because you're trying to prove that you deserve to get bigger budgets for more projects. And so the people involved, like of producing and writing it, are going to put more effort into it of making it good. Whereas like Rings of Power is terribly written. I think people that write Rings of Power are literally just horrible. They should be fired. I don't know what else to say. No hate to any of the actors in the show. I just don't think that what they're given is that good. And I don't think the casting was necessarily that good either. I was sad the dark elf guy died. I don't even think he died, Jesse. Like I supposed to show that he died, but we never like see anyone like go up to him dying, or it's kind of not clear. So it's kind of the Game of Thrones standard to me, Jesse, that we didn't see him really die, so that he's probably not dead. Agreed, Violet, on the small budget stuff. I was hoping we would at least get a fantastic looking battle. It was clearly too much over. That's where I was on the camp of Ruckus. Like, I thought at least it'd be a competent battle, and it was not for me. But yeah. I have not heard of that, Ashley. Might have to look into it though. The casting is moronic. They've clearly, but zero thought. Yeah, I just, to me, there's no thought into it. Like, I don't think the actress that plays Galadriel is bad. I just don't think that she is the right person for someone like Galadriel. That, or like what they're giving her to do, or the direction of what they're telling her to do, isn't good. Like I actually think like the guy who is playing Elrond does a pretty good job. It's not his like problem. I think it's just what they're giving the character to do. And so I don't know. Also, guys, we've got Bran 1 is going to be the chapter for this week. Boy. Bran, I think, is not that bad in the Clash of Kings. But I do think, boy, his intro chapter compared to everybody else's intro chapter is significantly worse. Is significantly worse. Like, the story doesn't go anywhere. It's just kind of like, eh. Yeah, like this is my thing, right? Like, there's a lot of people that I think are good at acting in this show, but a lot of times they're just not really able to show it. And that's another thing, right? I don't care that like Rings of Power is changing the source material or anything like that. Like I do, but like I've kind of realized, okay, well, if they're gonna change things, hopefully it makes the show fit, right? Peter Jackson did that all the time. But when you change things that don't make any sense or make the show worse, just don't make sense to me. It's the same idea of House of the Dragon. Like House of the Dragon, I knew they were gonna change stuff. It's just why. So let me give me the thought process of why you changed it and why that improves upon the source material. I can see that. I think Bran is great in dance. I think he's a really good POV in dance. Can't wait for episode 8. Hope you enjoy it, Zach. Hope you enjoyed. I have very low expectations, mostly because the Harfoot plot wasn't in this episode. So that tells me we're going to get a lot of it. And I think the Harfoot plot has been probably the worst plot line I've ever watched in a show before. I don't know. I think that's a true statement. I have no investment in any of the characters in the Harfoot plot. I have literally no investment in it at all. Like I think they are literally parts of the show where I am just like, all right, let me just check my phone real quick till this sequence is over and then go back to actually and watching it. But can't wait for the Penguins episode 2. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's good. The Penguin is one of my favorite like superhero villains, I guess. So yeah. But that is going to be the stream, guys. I kind of talked about what I wanted to talk about this episode. I could go more in depth of like scene by scene, but I just don't really care to because I just think the show's bad. But yeah, I'll see you guys all for episode 8. But yeah, bye guys.